So you want to know what was my birth experience?
Yes.
All right, I've had 3 birth experiences, and each one relates to the other. So my first birth experience was I didn't know it was going to happen. I delivered 8 weeks earlier than I was supposed to. So of course that was a very simple delivery. But earlier on in the pregnancy, I was out in the yard raking leaves, and I went in the house to relax, and my water had broken. It's like, whoa, this is not okay. So they rushed me to the hospital, and they gave me something to stop the birth from continuing, but it didn't. So I ended up in the hospital. I ended up delivering, and that birth ended in that baby passing. So now that's a prelude to what happens with the next one. So in the next pregnancy, I'm very careful about everything that I do. I'm not outside raking leaves. I'm eating the right thing. I'm walking. I'm not even really walking that much, because what happens is Dr. Johnson determined that I had what they call an incompetent cervix, and that caused the cervix to open up early. So then he had to give me a surgery called a cerclage to make sure that the cervix stayed intact. So we're good to go on that. And then
Did you have the same doctor for the first pregnancy?
yes, I had Dr. Johnson for all 3 pregnancies. He was Kia's doctor. He had delivered the sextuplets that were born in Indianapolis. It was 6 of them. He delivered them, and he was a member of my church. So he was not only my doctor, he was my friend. And so once he had made that determination, he gives me that surgery, and they're off to a good start, and I do all the right things. He was concerned about my weight, because there's something that happens with diabetes if your weight is out of control, so he had me keep that under control. So it went really relatively well. The birthing was a little tough because of the cerclage, but we didn't know that until we were well into the birth. And so the first one I had no fears. The second one I had the fear that the cervix might open up early. But it didn't worry me, because I felt like Dr. Johnson had his hand on it. He knew exactly what was going on. And you asked me about health problems, and I had none, which really helped a whole lot for my pregnancy. I had no health issues. I didn't have high blood pressure. I didn't have diabetes. I wasn't quote unquote obese. All those issues that come into having a baby, I had none of them. I was like in perfect health. At least I thought I was.
You still in perfect health.
Did you have any health issues that were related to the pregnancy after you gave birth?
None. I had no health issues after I gave birth. I went back to a perfectly normal life. I didn't have postpartum depression, but I didn't have that. It went well.
So what about you talked about the doctor and the level of comfort that you had with the doctor, but what about all of the other healthcare professionals that were there? Like, how did you feel interacting with them?
The initial pregnancy, it was traumatic. They were absolutely awful. When I went in with the baby, I was going into labor. Instead of them focusing on stopping the labor, they go, well, you don't have to worry. This is over. This baby is coming. We can't even believe that the baby's staying in this long. That's what they said to me. And then when a baby was born, they go, oh, we can't believe she's living this long. They actually nicknamed her Amazing. And I felt like their focus was not on me. It was so bad that the doctor, who was Black, was dating my sister-in-law. And he called me Linda. He put his hand on my forehead. He said, Linda, it's going to be okay. I said, I'm not Linda. He said, oh, I am so sorry. So yeah, that was that experience. I forgot about that. So Dr. Jones, he was not paying me any attention whatsoever, and he was the doctor on call. So that was ugly. What do you remember from the first year of postpartum? And as positive as it is, I'm sorry, it was just exhilarating and exciting because I actually had a baby, and the baby had no complications in coming and was healthy. However, he did have jaundice, and we had to stay in the hospital an extra 9 days. That's how I got the name Mason, because my coworkers, we didn't have a first name for him, so we called him Baby Mason. We dropped baby and called him Mason. So I just remember a good experience from having my first baby postpartum. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't upset. I just found joy. What do you wish you have known going into that experience? There was nothing for me to know. That a positive attitude, belief in God, trust, helps to get you to the next place for me. What do you wish to see in the future for maternal health? Well, the absolute best. I want to see doctors who really care, who have a personal interest in their patients. Not that they have to have a personal relationship with them, but they at least have to care enough to know them. I remember during one of my pregnancies, I was going through the one with Dorianne. I had a 16-hour labor, and we found out with that 16-hour labor, the reason why it took so long is because I had developed keloids in the cervix, and it was more difficult to deliver the baby. And Dr. Johnson turned to my husband and said, "Okay, have you been treating her well? Because I'm getting ready to put this on you." I mean, it was just hilarious. And so later on, Dr. Johnson came back in and apologized to both of us. He said, "What I found was that keloids had developed on your cervix, which made it harder for the cervix to open." And so he felt that he could say that to us. He cared enough about us to know about our lives, not just delivering the baby, but outside of delivering the baby. So that's what my spin is on it. Healthcare is important. Just caring about your body. Exercise, food, mental health, it all pays off in the end. And even then, it doesn't have to always end up exactly like you want it to be. But if you address those issues, it comes out pretty good. At least it did for me.